Hmm. The thing you mentioned there actually about sucking the individuality out of people and the character really speaks to me in a way, just because like I don't feel like that's personally happening to me. But the thing that I always think about, and it might just be like a little silly like anecdotal thing, but rock stars used to be rebels, you know, like musicians and like artists, and we used to have like a whole respected class of people who were contrarians and you know, alternative thinkers and people who challenged the status quo in a way. And now everyone who appears on mainstream anything is the most milk toast, center of the road, non-offensive person that you can possibly find. Like,
I mean, it's true. Music always used to be, having a go at the establishment, didn't it? From the Sex Pistols downwards. I mean, it was having a go at whatever the establishment's conventional wisdom was. Now, celebs, pop stars, and music's pretty anodyne now. I mean, I think there's something's happened to the creative process in all this as well. You don't see much, interestingly, you don't see much great art at the moment. But people just come, whoever the celeb is, they'll just support whatever the prevailing PC line is. And there's no encouragement of that question of questioning, of skepticism, of testing the official line and seeing if it actually does hold water. No, they're just supporting it. And of course, in doing that, they maintain their own position and their own power, and they get asked back onto the couch in the morning. I mean, I used to do a lot of morning TV. I don't do any of it anymore. I was the first security correspondent on British TV for morning TV a long time ago, and I've done hundreds, if not more, a lot of broadcasting on terrorism. I made a history of terrorism for the BBC Omnibus. I made the media and the monarchy for BBC Omnibus. This is on the World Service, and other programs for network TV as well. I just don't get asked to broadcast anymore because my views are not the establishment's views. And of course, remember, this is a new establishment now. It's not just the old establishment. It's not just the old sort of slightly weird Oxbridge Church of England establishment with people singing in strange voices. It is the establishment of the politically correct, of the people that say the right things, that, repeat the mantra. And if you repeat the mantra, you get asked on to, the morning couch or whatever it is, or I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, etc. Because you've repeated the mantra. You don't get to those places by questioning the system, even if you're a pop star.
no.
So that means it's a very different sort of, deal now than a generation ago. Very, very different. Even 25 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's caused that, because like maybe it's just that all the characters are no longer interested in the mainstream. Because and I love the clip of from CNN of Brian Stelter, who's one of their hosts. Like, he was pontificating on the problem with YouTube, and he was like, can you believe it? These people get more views than CNN, and it's like, yeah,
I can believe
better.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do a lot of work for CNN. I used to comment on terrorism for CNN, and in particular, the phone doesn't ring anymore. Ditto with the BBC. So
you're not the first person I've heard that
having
from.
said that, I did do something for one of the major BBC shows the other day, but it's very rare now. And I feel now that you have got to be absolutely constrained in what you say. You cannot say what you think. That is a very dangerous thing. If you say what you think, if you talk about the sort of stuff we're discussing, that's it. You will not be asked back ever. It's the same on Twitter. I mean, I'm careful what I put up on Twitter. I understand the boundaries of that system, and what I could, I push it. And it's quite interesting. Have you noticed it's changed? You still can't on Facebook. I don't think you can say, you can say the V word, vaccination. If you say that, you're almost certain to get your account taken down. I've had my account taken down a couple of times. Twitter, I've noticed, has become a little bit more, it's not free. but you can say a little bit more than you were able to say 12 months ago. It's quite interesting. I'd love to know who sets that, who sets those boundaries.
Yeah.
And then, and you notice, I mean, I'm careful. I use wording that I don't think the bots will pick up and stuff like that. And that seems, touch wood, that seems to have worked. And I'm still there, and I've got 60,000 followers on Twitter. That may not last forever, but for the moment, I have that platform, and I'd like to develop others. But I also want to see loads of us connecting like this, creating, a groundswell, creating a critical mass for change, because I think that's coming. I don't think people will accept. I mean, we've got two futures, haven't we? One's a sort of fascist dystopia that I don't think anybody wants to live in, or a communist dystopia that nobody wants to live in. But I think it's more likely that it would go, there might be elements of socialism to it, as there were with the Nazis, but I think it's more likely to go towards a sort of fascist corporate dystopia. Or we create something else, something better, something more humane, and something which will give us a better and freer life, and also address all the colossal problems that face us, collectively as a species.
Yeah, I think, and it's critical, I think, in this case to have people like yourself making the case for positive change and a better vision of the future, because when everything sort of comes crumbling down, and when the revolution comes, or when the next crisis hits us, the problem with like revolutions and tearing the system down is that quite often the worst possible people end up in charge. It's like people can romanticize if they like about the 1917 revolution in Russia, and they can think, the Bolsheviks, they had the best interests of the people at heart, and it's like, maybe they did. Look what happened inside 10 years. You had Stalin like purging millions of people from the earth, to just killing them, and then on top of that they started killing all the farmers, and then like half of Ukraine starved to death. Like, that's what happens when
it is amazing.
Chaos.
I mean, people, when they they talk about communism or Marxism today, they forget about the concrete rooms in Stalinist Russia, people walking in them and getting shot in the side of the head in their hundreds of thousands. And the casualties to communism seem to be conveniently forgotten. I always find it interesting that the media tells us a lot about the Nazis, but they tell us far less about the casualties of communism. But it's all the same deal. It's all the same stuff. And I'm going to end on this thought, Josh, if I may.
Yes, of course.
Years ago, I wrote a book about Lawrence of Arabia. I was the assistant adjutant at Bovington Camp, where T.E. Lawrence died on his motorcycle. And that's an interesting story. There are many interesting aspects to that story. But I got in touch with Terry Waite. And this was before Terry Waite got kidnapped. And funnily enough, later he got kidnapped in Beirut, and I got kidnapped in Beirut. The difference was they only kept me for a day. My captors quite liked me. I had an interesting philosophical conversation with them, and they let me go. But the last thing that Terry Waite said to me when I went to see him at Lambeth, he invited me to tea. And these words have always stuck in my mind. He said, "Michael, the great lie is the individual can't change things for the better." And that has always stuck with me. We can, as individuals, we can. If we take on that responsibility, we can change things for the better. And we must change things for the better, because they ain't so good at the moment.
That's definitely an absolutely beautiful note on which to end things. The last point I do want to make very, very briefly is that Wikipedia are considering deleting the page of mass killings under communist regimes. I didn't believe it was true until I went to look at it, but they are disputing the accuracy, neutrality, and verifiability of the claims. So, go save that page before it gets deleted, people.
Well, as I'm talking to you, I'm looking at the table embroidered by my grandfather, the tabletop, whilst he was in Gestapo captivity. And the Gestapo's claw, he was in captivity for a year and liberated by the Allies. And I always look at that and I think about his courage. And I was in Afghanistan when the Russians were there. And I saw what they did there. And I'm not saying we didn't do bad stuff there, because we did. I think it really concerns me when we see all these terrible things that have happened in the past. And if anyone tries to deny them, whether it's Holocaust denial or denial of the crimes of Stalin, that is just terrible, because what you're doing is making that sort of thing more likely again.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment for us in the comments below. Let me know what you thought and if you'd like to see more of this from the show. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time.